guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name's Ariella. I make videos about medical school education and lifestyle, and today I'm going to be continuing my interview series where I talk about common interview questions and maybe include like interview outfits or things in the future. So if you're excited, give this video a thumbs up. Before we start the video, I want to just give a little disclaimer or reiterate a disclaimer in that every interview is unique to you and every interview question is going to be specific to your journey. And so what I'm saying are just answers that I came up with before I interviewed and things that I wanted to say. They're not necessarily going to be the best for you, and these aren't necessarily the things that you want to say in order to get into medical school. You want to be authentic to your own journey. In addition, these are not answers that will get you into my specific medical school, so if that's the kind of video you're looking for, this isn't it. I don't have the perfect answers to everything, but I just wanted to give a little bit of insight as to what I said, because I know it can be really hard to think of answers when you're on the spot. And that's why it's helpful to plan your answers ahead of time. So what I want to give here is a skeleton, and then you use that skeleton in order to frame your own answers. Okay, with that out of the way, today I'm going to be talking about 3 questions. The first one is going to be, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or any iteration of that, where do you see yourself in 10 years, whatever they want to say. The second is, what is success to you as a person? And the third is, how do you envision using your medical career? So the first question, where do you see yourself in 5 or 10 years, is partially to check if you know how long of a commitment medical school and the medical education is. So for example, if they ask you 5 years, in 5 years you would hopefully be completing your medical school education, you've gotten your MD or your DO, and you'll be starting your first year of residency or your internship. 10 years is a little bit more variable. Depending on the specialty that you choose, you could either have been a practicing physician for a few years, or you could just be nearing the end of your residency if it's a little bit longer. I think an important note about the 10-year question is that it's okay to have goals and ideas of what specialty you want to go into, but at the end of the day, nobody knows exactly what they want to practice until they get to their 3rd and 4th year rotations. So if I was asked, where would I see myself in 10 years, I would say exactly what I said before. I could be a practicing physician for a few years if I went into something like primary care that has a shorter residency, or I could be just nearing the end of my residency, ready to start my career. The second question is, what is success to you? For this question, I think it's really important to tie in your own personal experience and times that you personally have felt successful. Makes sense. So for me, I would talk about my experience in physical therapy. Basically, the bottom line of my experience is that hard work does not manifest itself into completed goals after one day. Basically, the story behind that is when I started physical therapy, I would go into work every day, I would help patients do their movements, I would do them with them, teach them. If the physical therapist was okay with it, I would slowly increase the rate that they were using week after week. The difference between a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Friday on a week is essentially negligible. You don't see a huge improvement in that regard, but the improvement after 2 months of prescribed physical therapy is like night and day. And so for me, success is doing the little things in order to see results in the long term. I felt so much fulfillment when a patient could do something that they couldn't do before. Even though I didn't see the improvements day to day, I saw them month to month. It takes hard work and commitment in order to achieve your goals, and once you've achieved them after putting in all that hard work, that's what I consider success. I hope that makes sense. So the last question I want to talk about is, how do you envision using your medical education? So this one is very specific and unique to your own journey, and that's awesome. It gives you a chance to open up and tell the interviewers something about you that you might not have otherwise brought up. It gives you a chance to stand out from the other applicants and tell them a little bit about your own story. For me personally, something that was really important to my healthcare journey was working with populations that were largely underserved. And this comes from the fact that my family and I visit the Philippines every 3 or 4 years when we can, and so I would see extremely impoverished populations there who obviously couldn't afford healthcare. They could barely afford anything that they had. And I kind of saw a parallel between that and my community at home, which is a medically underserved community. It's very rural. There's not a ton of doctors. I used to work in a primary care office, and I remember patients telling me that our office was the only one accepting patients for 30 miles. And when you have an older patient population, they're not always able to travel as easily to get to those 30-mile away primary care offices. And as someone who has two doctors as parents who never wanted or needed to wait for a doctor's appointment, I really sympathized with them because I couldn't imagine being in their position where I was not able to get my hands on healthcare no matter how hard I tried. I never had to experience the feeling of not being able to see a primary care doctor or not being able to schedule a quick sick visit or anything like that. Something that's really important to my journey is I want to help prevent problems like that in communities like the one I grew up in. So I would love to work or learn in an underserved community and provide for that type of community once I have the qualifications to do that. That's something that I planned to work into my interview because it was really, really important to me. And the schools that I applied to have a very large presence in underserved communities. So those are my answers for those 3 questions that I planned and would have said if they had been asked to me. I'm not, honestly, in my interview so long ago, I can't remember exactly what they asked me. I couldn't even remember what they asked me 5 minutes after the interview happened. It is such a whirl and a blur, but it's so much fun and it's so exciting. Again, I just want to reiterate, these aren't questions or answers that you should use specifically down to every detail, but use them as a framework and put your own spin on it, put your own unique touch. Everyone has so much to offer, and if you've gotten an interview to medical school, you are already good enough to be there. I hope you guys enjoy these types of videos, and if you have any questions, any interview questions that you specifically would like to hear my answers to, leave them down below, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.